there. So yeah, like the video says, it's going to be a few more thoughts about EOS. And at some point, you're probably going to get me tired of me talking about this stuff. But that's kind of like the point of these videos is, what I'm working on and, how I think it can help other people. And like I started talking about in the other video, the whole thing with EOS is it gives you the ability to put, structure in place. Because a lot of times, unless you're working with like a business coach, we don't know exactly what we should be doing, right? And that pertains to a lot of things, as far as like how do you do the quotes and how do you, structure your team and how do you hold meetings and how do you, hold people accountable and, all the kinds of stuff like that. And not that this program, talks about the, how to quote stuff, but as far as how to, put your teams in place, how to, set goals and targets and how to run meetings and like all this kind of good stuff, like all the, the back end stuff that we really, kind of neglect most of the time. It puts structure into place for that. And so one of the concepts, and I probably talked about it before, but it's coming up again in my business, is it's talking about the right people in the right seats. So basically, the right people is if they have the core values for your business. And I talked about it in another video, but basically the core values are the things that as you're starting out, that's going to be pretty much on your own. You're going to be looking at this stuff. But then if you're a bigger company, which most contractors just aren't going to be, this is where you bring in your leadership team and then discuss these core values. And the way that they talk about it in the book is basically look around at your current employees and look at the what makes them so great, whether it's at their job, whether it just personality wise, things of that nature. And you basically come up with a whole list of character traits. So it could be some of mine are talk about customer service. You talk about, and it's at the end of the day when I'm like exhausted. But for a few of mine that are really important is that fast paced, right? Just because that's the nature of our particular business. For me, I really want people to have more of an ownership mentality because I don't, I've done this long enough where I keep on I don't want to be the smartest person in a room. I don't want to be the person that constantly is trying to find ways to innovate and, improve the efficiency and, things of that nature. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. And, because it's at the end of the day, like, you can't do everything, right? So, but anyway, you get like these core values, and the way it works is basically you hire and fire based on these core values, right? And what's going to end up happening, and I can see it for my own company, is that the people in the places they were, they're either going to be switched into different positions, or they're just not going to make it within the company, right? And the reason for that is because a lot of the employees I have, or most of them, they've been with me for 1, 2, and 3 years. And actually, I think one person's been 4. Well, which doesn't seem like a long time, but if you're new in this business and whatever that you're doing, what you're gonna see is that in 1, 2, 3, and especially 4 years, there's a lot of growth, a lot of times, and hopefully within not only your business, but you as a person as well. So, the person I am today, unfortunately, I wish he was there. I wish I was there like, 3 and 4 years ago because I would have been that much further ahead, but I wasn't. So there's a lot of shortcomings that I have, where, I started writing down the things that I, did that I shouldn't have been doing with my original company, and how to kind of, fix those mistakes going forward. But there's my fault that I didn't work with my people as much as I should have, right? I didn't hold people accountable the way I should have. I didn't give them the responsibilities that I should have. And it came down a lot of times to one, I was not organized enough. I was doing too much, which I should have, started, handing off to other people. And I wasn't working with them, right? And then I wasn't holding them accountable, so I wasn't having the weekly or the monthly or the quarterly meetings that I should have. And basically, gave them different tasks or different areas of the business and like let them run with it. But it's also looking back as well. A lot of my people that I currently have, I would not leave or not leave, but I would not, give them an area of my business and be like, all right, I need you, this is your responsibility. I need you to run with it. And it's just becoming blatantly obvious for a few reasons. Number one is because I talked about in another video that I'm looking to hire my previous supervisor from McDonald's. Her level of um, pretty much, you name it, communication, um, integrity, um, the ability to motivate others, her organization, um, just literally everything. She's like up here, and like my employees that and we have to stop saying employees. It's really going to be teammates because I don't want employees really. I want a team, and but she's all the way up here. They're really down low compared to where she is. There's just it's not that they're shitty employees. It's just that she's vastly ahead of where they are. It's kind of like you know I don't even know. It's like someone on the high school baseball team compared to like a professional. Like it's just totally different. And but there's a few reasons for that. One, a lot of my staff are they're on the younger side. I think the one guy's like 52, but the other ones are like what a handful are in their 30s, but a lot of them are in their 20s. Whereas my supervisor's been doing the whole management and supervisor thing for like 29 years, right? So there's vastly more experience, and it's not only just experience, but it's the type of experience where as a GM of a McDonald's, you could have 40, 50, 60, 100 employees. And then once you started getting into the supervisor role, I forget, I think when I left, she had 3 stores, and just say they averaged 60 a piece. That's 180 employees, but also the responsibility of the business itself, right? And these people, I hate this. I'm picking up my son from school, from the base, and they just I can't see for shit for one. And so there's just vastly more experience, and it's just totally different, totally different ballgame. And so now I'm like comparing her to these guys, and I'm like, ugh. So there's that. So anyway, back to the concept of the right people in the right seats. Yeah. So the right people is people that hold the core values, and the right seats is like, are they doing basically what they were meant to do, right? And in this EOC, which is the Entrepreneur Operating System, is basically they have this. They have like acronyms for everything, but there's GWC, and what that means is gets it, wants it, and has the capacity to do it, right? So gets it is basically, are they naturally good at what you're asking them to do? Like if you're having an accountant, like they have to be good at math, right? Like they can't be a shitty at like math and be an accountant. It's just never going to work, right? So, and then the next step is want it. So like, do they actually want to do what you want them to do, right? Because it's not good enough that they're just good at it. Like there's things I'm good at, but I do not want to do, right? And then the final thing is the capacity, right? So that is that could be time constraints. So like if they're already doing like 40 hours a week of whatever you have them doing, are they able to add the additional responsibility that you're looking to do? Things of that nature. So there's a bunch of through the system, there's a bunch of filtering mechanisms as far as what needs to, as far as with your employees, placing them and things of that nature. So we have that. So that's what I'm working on now. Because originally, when I called my supervisor, I'm like, "Hey, I need you for front counter, but the goal is like, to get you more or less up and running, and then, I'd like you to oversee more areas of the business, but obviously you need to, walk before you run." And but now, after we had one of my employees that I thought she was going to do this one thing, we end up moving in, and she's like, "You know what? I really enjoy doing this instead. I know what to expect every day. I'm not getting stressed out," which that was one thing that we were worried about of her, being stressed out, which is that capacity, and the wanting, and whereas like my supervisor could really probably fill this role. So we're like moving things around, so we're going to see how that plays out. And that's the biggest concern for me with, the supervisor is that, she's been in McDonald's for 29 years. It's very structure oriented. It's not like, this is more of a startup, right? So there's going to have to be flexibility, which I know she has. Um, so we'll see what ends up happening. But I guess that's it for now. But you will see a lot of content on this whole, EOS system. I really enjoy it. It's, like the book Traction. It feels like I'm getting traction, and it's kind of exciting to look so far out that I never kind of did before, and to now start looking at, um, the 10-year plan, the 3-year, the 1 year, the quarterly, and all this kind of shit. And then what ends up happening is it gets my mind to expand, from like before, I'm like, I just want to, have, make this amount of money and this and that, to like my 10-year plan is to sell on an annual basis 500,000 vinyl fence panels. Like that's, and doing $55 million a year in revenue. Like it's just totally different where I never even would have thought of this kind of stuff. So, anyway, hope you guys have an awesome night. Talk to you soon.